3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Grassroots podcast, where we dig deep to reach high, and of course, it's always progress through action. I am your co-host, Payron Baxter,
I'm your co-host, Ram Sandoval.
and again, we are the Grassroots podcast, and we are on episode 15.
Yes, this is episode 15. We started in late December, so
Hey, we get up there.
yeah, a couple months in. But I'm having I'm enjoying this and getting the word out. Tonight we have a lot to talk about. So first off, well, in the second half, we're going to be talking about the Elon Musk and his first cabinet meeting, President Elon Musk,
Right.
and then we're going to be talking
President
about
Musk.
we're going to be talking about the Oval Office tensions with Ukraine and really the betrayal, some Russia cyber stuff, gold card, changes at the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, the budget, Joy Reid, and we'll talk a little bit about the boycott. But first, you want to introduce our guests?
Yes, of course. And now me and this brother go back for the past couple of years. I remember he was one of my first phone calls I made when I became chair. I remember it was my first summer as being chair, and they were like, "Hey, if you need to organize a voter registration rally or get in contact with somebody who's quite knowledgeable about that, this guy named Brandon Lakes. You want to reach out to him?" I said, "Brandon Lakes. Okay, I'm gonna find that brother." And we come to find out his name was Brandon Rivers. I said, "Okay, got it now." But no, but I remember our first conversation. Me and this brother talked for like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It was like crazy long. And then we played phone tag and we finally connected. And I was like, "This is a brother for life." And every time I've engaged with this brother, it has been meaningful and it has been deep. It has been resonant in my soul, and he gets me fired up. And I think I do the same to him. But I want to introduce my brother, Brandon Rivers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him in.
Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Thank y'all so much for having me, man. For sure. Payron's amazing, man. Like I said, just meeting Payron, the work that he's doing in Union County. When we first locked in, it was just super exciting. The energy matched, the hair matched. It was just like, hey, look, brother,
It was a little shorter.
It was like, hey, look, I don't know where this guy came from. Super excited to be on Radical Roots tonight. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Brandon, I know some folks know you out there, some folks don't know you. So just could give us like a 1,000 foot up, a little bit of a background bio for you. I know you done held about 50 11 jobs like a Jamaican. Walk through us, a little bit of your resume, brother, because you come with the receipts, and I'm so proud about that. So if you just give us a little bit of your background, if you don't mind.
Man, like I said, truly blessed, but I always like to start off. I'm from the city of Charlotte. My name Brandon Rivers. I'm from the city of Charlotte, born and raised, Nation Ford Road from inner city Charlotte. That's definitely my village. Definitely super excited to let everyone know that. Went to North Carolina Central University for political science. I love to always tell people I'm not a politician. I'm a political science. I love the art and the science of politics. Understanding the theologies and the ideologies and the scope of politics is really what I'd like to deep dive in, right? Understanding that, politics isn't just, voting, every 4 years. Understanding that politics is civic and community engagement and making sure people understand their rights to a democracy that we have here. Work for an organization, doing marketing, but also did volunteer work. Always volunteer work, working on campaigns. Again, didn't think it was a real lane for me. But after COVID, I was definitely blessed to be able to come in, do some work for a nonprofit organization, led their fundraising team. And then, that just sort of snowballed me into working with larger organizations, doing large scale voter registration, large scale voter mobilization, voter education, as well as, voter empowerment, right? Making sure people understand that, we're just not here to get you registered to vote. We're here to make sure you understand the importance of voting. So
Right.
about 4 to 5 years, I've worked with organizations, again, mobilizing voters in marginalized communities. This includes people of color, specifically young adults, college students, high school students, seniors, any people or any community that has had issues historically with voting. And right now, I am the executive director for the newly created Charlotte Democracy Center, partnered with the Center for Common Ground. And again, our goal is to make sure that we aren't transactional, that we're transformative. and to make sure that we are a year-round organization that continues to educate people year-round. So when it comes down to getting out there to vote, we're not having to drag them out to vote. They're running to the polls.
I love that. I love that. Well, yeah, man. So I'm trying to fix my camera here. So I'm
Like,
sorry, y'all. If I'm
what's going on over here with
looking a
the
little
camera?
crazy. I'm sorry. I'm trying to because it looks like I'm like because Rom has me on the wrong side. It looks like I'm like looking off in the distance. So I'm trying to do this new thing with my new camera. So I'm sorry, y'all. But no. So so give us a little bit of background on what you do. So currently, you're the executive director for the
Mhm.
Charlotte Democracy Center. So those are like a lot of words with a lot of syllables. Break down kind of what you're specifically doing right now and how that impacts Charlotte, how that impacts democracy, and how that impacts centers.
So one of the things that I believe in and was truly impactful in our communities is year-round organizing.
Mm-hmm.
This past election, you would see, so many organizations, you would see commercials, you would see text messages,
Mm-hmm.
phone calls about getting out to vote. And after November 5th, it just stops, right? I mean, it was
Mm.
to the point I was getting so many text messages. I text somebody said, if you text me again, I'm not going to vote for you, right? I mean, it just became to the point like, this is becoming too much. But after the general election, what happens is, people tend to go about their normal lives, right? Which is okay. It's nothing
Right.
wrong with that. I have a normal life, and I think that's what we have to understand in the political game. That that we have children, we have families, we have loved ones, we have other things that we have to put our focus on. So the Center for Common Ground, Charlotte Democracy Center, is pretty much what I just stated. It's a common ground. It's where we meet people where they are, right? Where we're going to
Mm.
continue to do year-round engagement. Here in North Carolina, we have elections every single year. So we have
That's right.
elections this year, we have elections next year, we have local, we have midterm, we also have general elections. But honestly, talking about elections right now is not going to be the most, most exciting thing, right? It's really no sense of
Right.
urgency. We do have
Right.
elections that's coming up in September. We have elections October, November. But right now, our pretty much goal is to make sure that we're able to serve the community outside of just getting people registered to vote. So right now, we're doing community engagement events, right? Recently we did a Christmas cuss event at one of our community partners where we did voter registration, but instead of going in there and busting them to the polls where we did in this last November, we were providing free haircuts, right? We
Mm.
provided mittens and gloves for the cold weather, but we also were
Mm.
sitting there talking to them about how they felt about the last election. For the Seminar Common Ground this year for the Charlotte Democracy Center, we created a survey. So one of the things I love to tell people is I don't create events, right? I know a lot of people like to create these events and they say we want to get people there. And a lot of organizations will have a comedian and have free food, but it's no turnout. The reason
Mm.
why, because it's other things to do, right? So what we do is we meet people where they're at. We're at the gas stations, we're at the Salvation Army, we're at the food bank, we're at the Black Food Truck Friday, we're at the Charlotte Pride, we're at the Black Pride, right? We're at the
Mm.
college campuses, we're at the student union. We are where you are. So we're meeting you at a common ground
That's
to
right.
let you know that you don't have to be an elite person to be engaged in politics. You don't have to go to a meeting or a town hall at this point of your life to be engaged in politics. And
Mm.
once you get that little taste of politics, then you can just continue to grow where you're now going to town halls and now you're becoming a precinct chair. And maybe eventually now you're running for office.
Mm, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. I think Ron brought that up a few times on our show about again meeting people where they are, and I think Ron that kind of is a illustrative of what you've been asking, right? Like why doesn't, of course, now the party itself is a different thing than what the Charlotte Democracy Center does, but dare I say that's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. I mean, to me, the strategy makes sense because a lot of people, and I think we were talking about this before we went live, but a lot of people aren't really engaged in politics like that. Like, they're not spending time and they're not looking for these groups. I mean, I'm engaged in politics now, and I still am finding about new groups and new events and things like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it makes sense that like you meet people where they're at, and a lot of people, we talk about, oh, they say I don't do politics, or politics doesn't interest me, but then it's like politics is everything in our lives, in our daily lives, and how it affects it. So I think just trying to connect with people, and this is like, you know, again, I think that's a great strategy. So
Yeah.
how is
Okay.
so like how did the what are some of these events like when you go in there, and how do you start engaging the people? You just regular conversation, or you're like, I'm from Center of Common Ground? Like, what does that look like?
So I always tell people you can't coach approach, right? I always tell people like,
Mm,
you can't coach approach. But
that's
one
a
of the
bar.
things that we focus on in the Charlotte Democracy Center, and not just with that, but with the organizing I've been doing year round, is getting people from their own community, right? We spoke about being transactional and being transformative. A lot of times when it comes to community and civic engagement, you have people that aren't from the community doing the engagement. You have
Mm,
people that's not from the city going into these types of areas. So when you
mm-hmm.
look at them, it looks like it seems more targeted. Like, why are you here? Like, I've never seen you at our barbershops. I don't see you at Mr. Charles Fish and Chicken. I don't see you at Stats. But
Yep.
somehow during election time, you're out here telling me who to vote for, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I do love to let people know, and I'm on camera, and I wish I had one. I'll probably be able to grab one in a second. But we use a palm card, and on this palm card, it allows us to be able to give you something tangible. A lot
Mm,
of times people don't have time to talk to you. They're on the way to the bus, they're on the way to pick their
yep.
kids up. So I want to give you something tangible. And on this tangible item, which I'll be able to pull up shortly, is information about how voting impacts you on a day-to-day basis. So we
Mm,
have a palm card which shows things like affordable housing, public safety, right? Voting rights, you know, food deserts,
mm-hmm.
child care, criminal justice reform, how
Mm.
these things impact you on voting, right? So I always like to tell people I do voter registration at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Correctional,
I remember
uh,
you told me that years ago.
right
Yeah.
downtown,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff McFadden, who's an elected official, allows us to go inside and register them to vote. A lot of them don't know the sheriff is an elected official. They don't know that. A lot of them don't know that judges are elected officials. They do not know this information.
Mm-hmm.
I go on a lot of college campuses.
Mm,
A lot of these college students come from different states. They don't
mm,
understand that certain states have different minimum wages. Some states have different laws on abortion access.
mm-hmm.
Some some states have different laws on marijuana. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're a college student, you're from New Jersey, or New York or DC, where you can walk inside of a dispensary and purchase marijuana legally,
Yeah.
and you go to a school here in North Carolina where it's um, not illegal or legal, but it's decriminalized, you might face different consequences, right? So understanding that people do, like just Rom just stated, that politics is everything in your day-to-day life. We're looking at politics now, right? We're going to speak about these things. You're hearing about tariffs and federal workers getting laid off, and it's unbelievable because you didn't understand the power of politics, right?
Right.
And we understand that everyone comes from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Payron, your children are going to be educated about politics. They're going to vote in every election. They're going to
I
be
hope so. I
empowered to
hope
vote.
so.
They're going to do their thing. But if you
Maybe.
are raised in a household that does not vote, and they say
Mm,
that voting doesn't matter and I should not vote
mm,
and it doesn't matter, then it's probably a chance that you might not vote. So when I go inside of a college classroom or a high school and I'm registering to vote, I understand that all of you come from different scopes.
mm,
So my goal is to find out how can I give you the first introduction to voting and how our organization can continue to be year round. So if I register you to vote at Black Food Truck Friday, you're gonna also see us at the Family Dollar a month down the road, right? So now you understand that, oh, this organization is here to stay, and that makes people get out and vote a lot more. And
mm.
based on data, the people that I register have a higher turnout than other organizations.
So we just need to basically clone you times like a trillion and then spread you all across the country,
They tried to do
basically.
this last election, man. I was working for about 4 and 5 people.
I
It's a
know you
blessing. I'm
was.
humble with it. I'm humble with it, but that really is the issue. We don't have as many people, especially of color,
That's
that are
right.
out here really doing the work,
That's
right?
right.
And organizations don't have the funding.
Or the will. I mean, I think we gotta be honest about that. Or the will. I think we were talking before we got on screen here and talking about how in our respective counties, there's been this push for the suburban white woman, and we've been, it's been two elections back to back pretty much where they've doubled down on that, and we've been left at the altar twice. So there's a level of like if we could have a strategy where we could be okay with, actually focusing on folks who represent the base of the party, turn them out, get them excited, that's when we win. That's when we win. I try to remind people that we're 14% of the population, 11% of the electorate across the country. So we can't win even if 100% of us voted for the Democratic Party or whatever party. I know
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of nonpartisan shit with you, but you get my point. Like even if we did vote all together, every single person, it wouldn't matter because we still we're a leverage vote, right? We have to have allies in our vote to vote the right way. So there is that will, and there's that lack of will, I believe, sometimes at the structural level to do those things. I know that's what you're fighting through, and I know that's what you represent. That's why I love to talk to you because you put to bed every single stereotype that they try to throw at us. And I love when I talk to you because you're so brilliant, you're so smart. And I hate even saying that because we're brilliant and smart people. It's the stereotypes of those things
Absolutely.
that we're fighting through. And you do that in such a cool, regular way. And as I brought up on our call, I bring it pretty much on every call. We got to put it to where the goats can get it. Make it plain for people. Make it consumable for all of us, no matter, to your point, whatever level we're at.
That's it. That word right there. Make it to the point that we can absorb it. And understanding we are nonpartisan, but we also are here to hold elected officials accountable. And
There
I
you
think
go.
like just like here in this in North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Even in this last election, right? We have local officials. Here in Charlotte, we have a black female mayor. We have a black
Mm-hmm.
sheriff, right? We have a lot of local representation. But I also understand that with this representation is that a lot of people don't understand what they do, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. One of the things you had Jordan Lopez on the last call.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jordan Lopez, right? He's an
Mm-hmm.
elected official, right? One of the first Afro Latino elected officials at his level in our
Wow.
state. And it's be surprising that how many people in our community would not know of that, right?
Right.
Not because of anything he does, is because of just the ignorance of just what we have in our community. So just like you stated in this last election, you feel like, oh, well, they're going to vote for me here. They're going to do this. They've always continued to vote for me. So it's not a push to have an agenda for these communities. But then you wonder why when they don't vote for you or don't
Mm.
come out, then it
Mm.
becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to your point earlier when you were saying that the folks that show up right before the election who are not from the community, there's a bigger issue with that when folks show up who are not from the community because anytime you start talking about things about power, because what are elections about? They're about resource sharing, right? And are we going to share the resources with everybody, or are we going to share the resources with a few? And it's usually a white male dominated few when you're talking about the few. And there's two parties that usually supposedly represent those things. But now folks show up from outside our community saying, "Hey, I know what you guys need. I know what you guys want." And you're like, "You don't even know how to get around here. You're asking me where the
Exactly.
bus station is. You're asking me where Uptown is. You're asking me, a good spot to eat. You don't even know what it means to be from here." And then the problem with that is it becomes paternalistic. It then becomes where they're saying, "Hey, we know better than you for you, and
Yep.
you don't know the community better than us."
Can I ask a question about, since we're kind of on the subject, but like I'm gonna just jump into like the gerrymandering effect because they've rechanged these maps and it used to look something like this and now they look something like crazy. And maybe in Brandon, you probably know better than I would. I've only been here for a year, but like, does that gerrymander map like change it where all of a sudden this district that was historically predominantly black represented all of a sudden has additional white folks and now it's skewed and then they're trying to like have conversations with two different groups within this one district? Is that a thing, or am I just kind of making that up?
No, no, no. It's the thing. So gerrymandering, it historically here in North Carolina has remained a pressing issue. Okay, it's
Hmm.
led
Hmm.
voters to feel like their votes and they are marginalized, especially here in Charlotte. Right, these lines that they're drawing. I mean, they've drawn lines through North Carolina A&T's university, like literally,
I
like
didn't know that.
split the university.
Oh wow, I went to
We
A&T. I didn't know that.
split the university. We partner. So we partnered with an organization called Common Cause North Carolina, who was like the superpower of gerrymandering. Right. You know, it was an incident in our 12th congressional district. Right. where it had to be redrawn, including parts of Charlotte, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem. And the way it strategically is drawn is to marginalize black voters. Pretty much easy and simple. One of the things that people don't understand, that we can't vote for the U.S. Supreme Court, but we can vote for the North Carolina Supreme Court.
Right.
And that just speaks to the issues of voter suppression that we have here in North Carolina when it comes to early voting, to the new HB 66 bill that they're trying to introduce, to
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
lower early voting, to voter registration applications, photo ID. I mean, anything to suppress voters in North Carolina has been an issue. And a lot of times I always tell people, gerrymandering is probably one of the hardest issues to speak to uneducated voters or new voters about, because it's a word that most people don't understand, right? It's an issue that most people don't understand. Well, if I'm voting, how is this? Most people don't know what precinct they are in. Most people don't even
Right.
know how many congressional districts there are, right? I had to do work in CD1 this year, and I'm an organizer, and I was just like, what the heck is CD1? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I didn't know where it was, right? I know my congressional district, but like I
Right.
don't know
Right.
the lines of the congressional district, right? And that just
And like
goes
where
back to Rom just
where they
saying
are
that,
intuitively as well.
like it was wild, right? And this was a CD1 was a rural area in North Carolina with a large population of black voters, which the work that I was able to do at Center for Common Ground, we were able to turn that area blue.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So like,
absolutely.
but like that's the hard part, right? Is it's fighting uphill with and on top of the dearth of knowledge that folks don't have, it's the always the shifting sands under our feet,
Yep.
right? So we're always getting thrown more stuff. On top of that, we had to learn the old stuff, and going back to my point about paternalism, and then we get blamed for all these things, and it's like, again, like we have to have a concerted effort from folks willing to say these systems are getting the exact outcomes that they're intended to get.
Yeah, I think.
And
Yeah,
until we can grapple with that,
yeah, I think
go ahead,
I
Ron.
think black folks have been the most resilient, obviously, throughout history.
That's right.
And you keep throwing these, gerrymandering and voter ID and all of these things meant to disenfranchise, and typically, it affects black folks heavily, and that's obviously the intention. And it's like, I mean, and when it doesn't work, right? Like, all right, then we're gonna do this and do that. Then it's like voter ID. Now it's like, oh, you gotta have a birth certificate. Oh, now your birth certificate has to match your name, your maiden name, like, or whoever your married
Right.
name is. And it's like, and now you can't register people you can't register people in person, right? Like that's what they're trying to do, right? So it's like, I mean, how many things can they possibly throw into a point where it's like, it's obviously chipping away. I think it is chipping away. I think there is a lot of voter disenfranchisement that's happened across the nation,
Absolutely.
and that affected this election heavily, and probably more than a lot of folks realize. But I mean, it's tiring. I mean, and not like it's got to be tiring, especially for organizers and people who are trying to get it to votes. Like all these hurdles.
So one of the things that I've definitely enjoyed doing year-round organizing, like the past several years, the benefit that I've been able to have is keep going. Most people that do organizing, they work for a campaign. You work for Barack Obama, you work for Vice President Harris, you work for Donald Trump, you work for whoever you want. Once the election cycle's over, your job is over, right?
Your job's
This
done. Yeah.
last election cycle, I had over 100 people working for me. After that election cycle, my credit card was cut off, right? I mean, it just ends. I mean, the funding for general elections is billions of dollars. I mean, local elections, you might get 100 grand. So the funding is very different, which goes back to the reason that I have had so much expertise and the reason why they call on me so much, because in the past 4 years, I've seen so many changes in voter registration and voting period, right? From the point of when I first started doing voter registration, the register a voter, you didn't need the last four of their social or their driver's license number. You didn't need it. So when I registered a high school student or a college student, it was easy. Just put your name, your date of birth, it's going to match in the system. You're registered to vote. Now, if I register these students, I need the last four of your social. A lot of these high school students don't know the last four of their social. They don't know their social security number. So I go inside of high schools to register students, and a lot of times our numbers they dwindle, right? Because a lot of these students don't know it. So I'm having to reach out and send memos and say, ask your parents for the information. They lock their cell phones up now, so they're having to pull their cell phones out, call their parents, because I can register them to vote, but I understand if I don't have this required information, they're going to send them a letter back in the mail stating they need that information, and that's going to make it even harder for them to get registered to vote, right? So that's a barrier there that was created, right? Also, another barrier that's been created as well is, in 2022, in 2022 midterms, historically in North Carolina, if you were convicted of a felony, if you were on probation and parole, I mean, you're a free citizen, you're walking the street, which is
Right.
predominantly a lot of people of color in marginalized communities,
Mhm.
then you couldn't vote, which is sort of weird because the president of the United States is a convicted felon, and it's just always really weird with me, right? I always tell people when people talk about, ex-offenders, convicted felons, and
Right.
felons, I hate those type of words. I always like to use the word
Mhm.
ex-offenders, right?
Right.
So
Right.
back to the ranch, just like you just stated, they could vote in the midterms. They updated the rights as long as you weren't in jail for a felony conviction. There's over 56,000 people in the state of North Carolina on probation parole for felonies. So I was able to organize these ex-offenders
Wow.
to get out and vote. Now in 2023, they restricted the rights again. I had people calling me scared that they were going to go to jail because they said, am I going to go to jail because I registered to vote? Is my vote going to count? Because now the same people that vote in the 2022 midterms can't vote in 2023 municipal elections. And they couldn't vote in the 2024 election. So I had to go back to these same places and tell them, hey, I know you just got to go out there and vote, Jim, but now you can't vote this year. So that right there can cause confusion. Most people in North Carolina don't know that you can vote if you have a felony conviction as long as your sentence is done. You know how many people I talk to? There's more people out there in North Carolina not voting that's off
Mhm.
probation and parole with a felony that's with it because they just think that, oh, I can't vote because I'm a convicted felon. That's not the truth.
And
So
Mm.
misinformation is
misinformation.
key. And lastly, like you said, photo ID. Photo ID is the same thing with misinformation. You can vote in North Carolina without an ID.
Right.
You can ask for a photo ID exception form, or you can vote
Mhm.
provisional ballot. It is not ideal. I'm not telling you to do it, but you can. So if you was talking to somebody and you're pushing them voter ID, and you have somebody that say, I don't have an ID. I had a cousin that have an ID. I said, get in the car and let's go vote. You don't have an ID. Who cares? Let them turn you down.
Mm.
Let the umpire call you out. Run around the base. Let the umpire call you out.
Mm.
Don't call yourself out. Don't you slide, ain't you pay Ron? Slide. So
Right.
that's what you have to do. So in North Carolina, photo ID is designed to suppress the vote, but it's the information that people have and don't have. And like you said, with HB 66 here in North Carolina, we have early voting. That's one of the benefits of North Carolina. We have early voting. And historically, we are nonpartisan, right? But
Mhm.
historically, and early voting in North Carolina started in year 2000. Who pushed early voting? Republicans. Republicans pushed early voting. Republicans were the first people to push early voting here.
It used to work
And
for
they
them.
still benefit from early voting. They still
Mhm.
benefit.
They still do. Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty 50-50 like leading into this election, as far as I know.
voila. Not 80 to 90% of all voters in North Carolina vote early voting. It is surpassed immediately. It is surpassed general vote. Voting on election day, you have to vote at your own precinct. You can't same day register. If you have any issues, it's going to be problems.
Mm-hmm.
Early voting, you can vote at any early voting location. You can same day register. You can vote Monday. You can even vote on Sunday. So understanding that these issues have, if we're a democracy where we want people to vote, why are there so many measures where they're getting people
Well,
not to be able to vote?
I don't know if we're still a democracy, and that's probably one of the reasons why. But I'm from Chicago, so like Chicago, we had it was easy to register, same day registration, same voter day registration, and it was like I got my card. It took a couple of weeks. When I moved here, I was worried because, and I know they have same day, but I still worry because like it's like provisional
Right.
because it's just not guaranteed. Like they'll let you do it in the
Mhm.
early voting. And I sent it in, and it's like over a month passed. I'm checking the website, and I tried. You could do it at the DMV. I had to sign up with the DMV appointment 3 months out, And the people, and so when I went to the DMV one day, I'm like, I'll do a walk-in. It was a 3 hour wait, and I was like, well, I can't do that. But they have people out there like on their computer, like it's crazy of the way, like you got to take 3 months to get a license to get registered to vote. I mean, it's like all of these hurdles, and it's
You got to
it's
pay
just
for it.
yeah. And the DMV here is terrible, by the way. I used to think, oh, Chicago, like an hour away, or like you can sign up a week in advance. Man, I got here and I was like, this is nuts. 3 months to get an appointment? That's
Yeah,
wild.
but see that's why the other side push private sector so much.
That's right.
Another
That's right.
conversation. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
I'm a straight shooter. I tell people that at the
That's
end of the day,
right.
that's why they push private sector so much. I speak on both sides with it, to the point it's like, well, I mean, we love the government, but every government resource we have is like slow.
Yeah.
And it's on purpose. Like, if you starve the beast, then you can kill the beast. And that's the point. If you defund the schools, then you can kill the schools, then you can privatize it. If you defund the post service, then you can kill the post service, then you can privatize it, just like how they have in the UK. So this is all a long-term strategy. And to all of our points we've been making this entire episode so far, is that if folks don't have that information, and I always said the 2024 election, uh, in the history book should be written about the two main issues of this election was about misinformation and voter suppression. Those two things carried the day. Now, of course, all the little, small things that we all know were not small things, but all the little pieces of it were the components of it. But those two larger components are what really carried the day for this past election.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we got about 8 minutes left with you, man. But in your background in organizing, if you could just give us a little bit of, well, let me get off that. I want you to explain to us, to our audience who may not, because we haven't really touched on this yet. What is HB 66, and what is its potential impact on North Carolina? Just give me your version of that.
So again, like we stated before, early voting here in North Carolina started in the year 2000. Previous elections, there's one day to vote. You have to vote at your precinct. It's a Tuesday, right? So, you have to get off from work. You have to get off work early.
Going late.
This election cycle here, the polling site I think closed at 7, and the last voter didn't walk out to 12:08. I mean, we had chips and water bottles and sodas. I mean, we had to feed them. I mean, it was to the point I was just like, I'm surprised these people out here to vote. Early voting is king. I tell everybody, always early vote. We have 17 days of early voting here. You can vote on Saturday. We used to have Sunday voting, which allows people to get out and vote.
Yeah.
HB 66 is a bill that they have introduced, which is HB stands for House Bill 66 here in North Carolina, to limit early voting to 6 days instead of 17 days. So now only allowing for 1 week, less than 1 week of early voting. That right there is going to dwindle our numbers of voting down, I believe.
No question.
Somebody can bet me some money on it. But understanding that the best days of early voting are like the first 2 days and like the last 2 days. And now we had that. So that right there gives you 13 days of mediocrity. This right here would only give you 2 days of mediocrity. It would just be impossible. Here in the city of Charlotte, I always tell people here in the city of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, I mean, you got to be completely honest with you. We were number 93 in voter turnout around about 4 to 8 years ago out of 100 counties, but we spend more money than over 20 counties I know. In previous years, which means that every county has their own funding. We do not have enough early voting sites to be able to hold that many people. If we have people waiting to 12 o'clock at night on election day with 17 days of early voting, it will be people having to spend the night. It will be people in sleeping bags.
Yeah, longer lines, and even 6 days, it's really not even a full week. So a lot of times people are working 6 days a week.
It's
to find that
impossible.
day off. So do you have I'm paying around before? I just have a question about like Mecklenburg and what you just said about being number 93 out of 100 and some about 100 counties, and them having a lot of funding. Why do you think that is? Like, what's how are they missing the mark in the last 2 major elections cycles?
Well, One of the biggest things here in Mecklenburg County is that we have a lot of transplants. Like I'm from the
Hmm.
city of Charlotte, right?
Hmm.
I think I just read I think 47% of Charlotteans are renters.
Mm.
47%. So that means that a lot of people are just newly moving here,
Mm,
right? Just like you stated before, the work that we do at the Center for Common Ground and Charlotte Democracy Center is about community and civic engagement. Gentrification is one of the biggest issues we have here in Mecklenburg County.
That's right. That's right.
I just bought my home last year, and I always tell people, for people of color, buying a home now is like an award. You
Mm.
pop champagne bottles. My grandparents and aunties were buying homes. Working medial jobs, right? I know people that make over $100,000 a year and can't buy a home.
That's
And
right.
my auntie worked at a factory and she owns her home, right? We also
Hmm.
understand that real estate and owning a home is the number one way to build generation wealth. It is the only way to build generation wealth.
That's right.
So I always tell people that. So stating back to what you stated before, when it comes to voter registration, voter education, early voting, getting people out to vote, bills like HB 66 are going to suppress voters. But one of the things I always tell people is that people that are moving to the city of Charlotte aren't familiar with local elections,
Hmm.
aren't familiar with municipal elections. So during general elections, we have higher turnout. But when it comes to local municipal elections, they're not familiar with local politics. They don't know who Mayor Lyles is. They don't know where their local precinct is, right? Most of the times when people move to the city of Charlotte, if you ever go to the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections, there's never a long line there. When you
Mm.
first move to the city of Charlotte, your first thing is getting rent paid and getting the lights on. It's not getting registered to vote, especially when it's not a general election year. So
Mm.
that's why this year with the Center for Common Ground, our Democracy Center is important, because we're not organizing in 2028. We're organizing in 2025. So by the
Hmm.
time 2028 comes, they have had 3 years of voter education, voter empowerment. And I always tell people, by 2028, the people in Charlotte this should be their fourth election. You should be voting in
Mm.
2025, 2026, 2027. So by 2028,
It's a
voting
habit.
is just a habit.
Hmm.
So I always say, an organization I used to work for, we used to say 4 by 2024. So now
Mm.
it's 4 by 2028. So
Mm.
again, here in the city of Charlotte, like you said, we have a large population. We have, I think, around 400 people moving here weekly or
Weekly, yeah.
daily. I mean, it's a large population. So you're
I
gonna
remember
look.
when I first moved here, they said it was 1,500 a month.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
crazy,
back in
right?
2014. Yeah.
Right. So you have so many people moving here. So you're pouring all this money into these areas. And just like Payron, he's in Union County. I
Hmm.
mean, have you been to Union County? I mean, it's just Monroe. I
Right.
mean, the rest of it's pretty shaky, right? So understanding Charlotte is a progressive city. So there's a lot of areas where, like you said, you have room for growth. You have Jordan Lopez, you have Mayor Lyles or Mark Jarrell, you have you have an Alma Adams, right? You
That's right.
have
That's
these
right. That's right.
these these local officials that look like you and represent you, but you also have people that are moving here every day that don't even know who the heck they people are.
mm,
It's almost like it's flooding the zone to a degree. It's too many. It's too many things to hit. With that game you play Chuck E. Cheese, like you almost need more manpower to respond to the influx of people coming in. And sometimes I think that party infrastructure doesn't really do those things, or those extra groups that do the work. It's hard to even follow that up, right? Because again, you're one guy, right? And I know you can have a large team, but then again, if more and more folks are moving in every week, you need more and more people to reach out to those people, and that becomes almost a snake in its own tail at a certain point. And I'm
And
sure
then,
that's
like you
difficult.
said, we work marginalized communities. So you
Mm.
understand that when you register to vote, when you move, you have to re-register. So, most of the
Mm.
people that live here in the city of Charlotte, I just said 47% of them are renters. So, a lot of them are living in this apartment and then you're moving here. I do voter registration on college campuses. If some of the college campuses, if you move into a different dorm room, you got to update your voter registration. It's the same campus, but you have to update your voter registration.
mm,
And knowing this, a lot of people don't understand the information. I registered voters this Thursday, and the lady was like, "Do I gotta update my voter registration? I just moved last week." I'm like, "Well, you have to update it after 30 days being in your residence, but yeah, you're gonna have to update your voter registration. Like, you move, you don't live where." So, unlike you just stated, if you're moving consistently, you don't know where your precinct is. Pay. I always tell people, I just bought my home. I register here. I don't have to re-register no more unless I buy another home. You know what I mean? This is where I live.
Right.
But if I'm renting and going from this apartment to this dorm
Mm,
room to my cousin's house to my new boyfriend's house to living back at my mom to living at
mm,
my dad's, then it's a chance your voter registration is gonna
be jacked
not
up.
be valid. So understanding that, like you just stated, the
And
work
and,
takes
and,
consistency.
I have two last points before I let you go here that on that is that like the systemic issue with the things of like voter ID is that folks don't talk about is a lot of us black folks, people of color, who live in multi-generational homes, right? And a lot of times the water bill, whatever, it comes in one person's name. And now to usually go get your ID or you might need a bill in your name. Some folks that it comes in their daddy's name or comes in their auntie's name, whoever they're living with, and no bills come in their name. So it's harder. That's another obstacle to go get that ID. And so when folks are like, why can't they just go get IDs? I have an ID. It's like you don't understand the obstacles, what it takes for us to even get to the starting line, right? And that is another impediment to us. And the last thing I'll say before I let you go, Brandon, is that like when we talk about folks who and I know you're nonpartisan, but when folks are like, who should I vote for? What side should I vote for? I'm like, well, the side that isn't trying to make it harder for you to vote is probably the better side to vote for. Because as we've just walked through for the past 40 minutes, is the all the obstacles and potholes and landmines and barbed wire and nails on the ground. And it's almost like a Home Alone. You know, like when you got the Christmas ornaments broken. That's what they do. Then they're like, now go vote. Now us is just it's an escalator to the top. It's a golden escalator. Y'all, it's Home Alone, the first version. Now both of y'all go vote. And I think when we're not making it plain for folks like that, it's like, well, who's making it easier for you to exercise the franchise, to get the resources you need for your community, and for you to have the power you need to be a whole person, to have the integrity, to have the safety, to have the health. Who is helping you with that? And to a degree, some of those things are questions to a degree at this point of who is actually helping you do that. But we got to start putting better people behind that.
We have Allison Riggs' case here in North Carolina. It's the
Yeah.
only contested race in the entire nation right now.
Mm,
60,000 votes. I mean,
mm,
I have a list of over 6,000. I have the list of
mm-hmm,
Mecklenburg County
mm-hmm,
of every person's vote that needs to be cured. I
mm.
mean, this has to be stopped.
It's
I mean,
insane.
I mean to the point where you do go out and vote, and now you're stating that my vote doesn't count. I mean, it becomes bigger than just going out to vote. It becomes to the point. And I always tell people, if it's I used to buy Jordans. Back there was a rapper for Jordans this weekend. I remember when I used to buy Jordans, I used to wait in line.
Right.
I used to wait in line. I would go
I
to the
remember those
mall, I
days.
would wait in line
Mm-hmm.
to get the Jordan
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that I want.
Saturday drops. Mm-hmm.
I'm not waiting in line for something I don't want. So if I'm
Mm.
talking to somebody that's like, I do want to vote, but it's not the biggest issue to me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I want these
Mm.
Jordans, but this ain't the biggest drop. I want these Jordans, but
Mm.
this ain't the biggest drop. I don't think I'm gonna wait in line for these.
Yeah, I think there's
I'm
How
probably
about
cool.
that?
I think there's probably like two types of people. Some people are going to be like, well, if, like I voted, my vote doesn't count. Like I'm not going to vote again. Or, dang, my vote doesn't. You telling me that you're trying to, cancel out my vote? I'm gonna fight for it. But like, I think it's. I mean, it's a dangerous game that's being played right now. In general, but I think like also the messaging too. Kind of going back to I think Payron was saying taxes, tariffs, terminations, like that resonates when things like Ukraine and democracy and things more elusive, and even Supreme Court justice. Like I don't know, like if that's as big of a deal as to a lot of folks.
Your tax is gonna go up. You're gonna pay more for your
Taxes,
goods.
taxes,
Like you're gonna lose your jobs.
taxes. I
Like
don't know
those
if
are
tariffs
three.
either. I mean, tariffs.
They're gonna take Medicaid away.
I mean,
They're
Take
gonna take
Medicaid
Medicaid
away,
away.
right?
but tariffs is also one of those elusive words, right? Like fascism and all those things. Like
Yeah, yeah.
but terminations and taxes. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I was saying that, but use those three bullet points,
Mhm.
but then put your own spin on it, right?
Mhm.
Hey, your taxes gonna go up. You're gonna pay more for goods, tariffs, right? You're gonna lose your jobs, terminations. So my point is, if we could just hook on that instead of saying, well, did you know that we're gonna pass a 19-point plan and it's all small, font and single spaced. Nobody gives a shit about that. Like, what are y'all doing? You know what I mean, what are y'all doing for me? And but no,
What
Brandon,
are you doing for child care? I'm telling you,
right.
I told my, my,
Talk
my
to
buddy has
people.
2 kids. I said child care, it's like a mortgage pay. I said you're paying
No
$2,000
question.
a month for child care. Like
No
he
question.
Like he's trying to figure out childcare. He don't even know what a HB 66 is. He's like,
Right.
bro. He's like WD-40. No, no, no.
Right,
HB.
right.
Right.
Lord Jesus.
But Brandon, it is it's been a pleasure. But any last words for the folks? Anything that you want to inspire them to do? Because I do believe it's about education, inspiration, and empowerment, and you've done all three of those tonight. But any final word to the folks that are listening? Any sort of
Man,
action items you can give them? What you got, Brandon?
Man, make sure y'all please subscribe to the Radical Roots, man. I'm gonna make sure
Oh
I
man,
plug
come on,
in and
brother.
get our link for people to join our mailing list. Please, please,
That's
please
right.
support the Charlotte Democracy Center, the Center for Common Ground. Please support any of your local
Meantime, during
precincts, voting precincts. If they're not organized, make sure you go out to any meetings. Support any of your local Black political caucus, African American caucus, any organization, urban league, any organization that's out there doing any civic and political engagement, please support them because we cannot do it alone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had Brandon Rivers, the man by many titles and many names, join us tonight. It's been a fantastic conversation. Brandon, we got to have you on again, brother. This ain't the last time.
yeah,
At any
absolutely.
time, man, we do trivia night last time, man. We did trivia last time,
That's
man.
right. We did do
Whatever you
trivia.
want to
That's
do.
right.
Yeah,
We
thank you
did
for
trivia. That's right.
and thank you for everything you're doing. I love the strategy.
Yes, sir.
Love to hear what
Yes,
you're doing.
sir.
I think it's probably one of the best strategies, and
Yes.
more folks should listen. And
I told you, Ron.
and good luck to you. And definitely let me know because I know you guys are plugged in a little bit, but let me know how I can help and keep in touch.
Definitely will, man. First, you can help me with giving me that hat, and we'll go from there. I need that Huey P.
How about that? How about that? All right, brother. You have a good evening, my man.
Take it easy. All right, let's see here.
All right. Well, that was Brandon Rivers, y'all. And now it's time to get into some hot topics. We need to have like a little sound for that, like hot topics. Because Ron brought up to folks, we're still growing the show. We're still trying to do new things. And my co-host, who was brilliant and insightful, was like, "Hey, man, it's great that we got all these guests coming on, but we got to start hitting on these things that folks is talking about." I'm like, you know what? You're right, man. And of course, we've loved every single guest. But we got to make sure we're putting it to where the ghosts can get it, as the great Joe Madison said, where folks can actively understand what's going on in the world around them, so they can feel empowered to do things. So maybe we should have it like a little bit of a. I know I want to have, and if you're out there, if you can help us with a jingle, maybe for the Radical Roots, and also maybe like a little like hot topics.
Right? Even this last election, right? We have local officials. Here in Charlotte, we have a black female mayor.
I got to mute.
Yeah, right? We have a lot of local.
Oh, okay. My bad. My bad.
But yeah, and also if there's any like producers out there like who want to produce a
Please.
podcast, I've enjoyed learning it, but it's a little bit stressful doing both at the same time, and
I know
like it feels like I'm in La La Land when I'm sitting here trying to do all this stuff. But there's that. So yeah, anything that as this grows and see how it continues to grow. But if people want to contribute. And the other thing I'll say is, well, I'll start this off. Let me just fix this real quick. All right, there we go. Yeah, hopped off. So, this past week, actually, I think it was just yesterday. We got news that Angie Stone had passed away. Angie Stone,
yes,
is a neo soul. Well, she's a singer. She's a soul singer. She was in a hip hop group. She had classics. I'm a big music person. R&B, soul, neo.
I mean, hold on, Ron, who is not a big music person? It's like I like food.
There's a lot of people. I mean, like I named my daughter after a singer. You know what I'm saying? So
you did.
And I have like all these records I got to get up with. I haven't done anything in my office, but Angie Stone, kind of legend, and the way she died.
It's crazy.
Tragic car accident with her band with 9 people. My understanding is she's the only one that passed away. It's sad because and she was a writer too, so she was big in the industry. She wrote a lot of big songs. So definitely tribute or shout out to her and kind of the respect
and her family
exactly to everything they're going through, and her contributions to music.
Yeah, I think when I think Angie Stone, I think about and you put it on our promo today. I love that song. I remember as a young person hearing Brother, And that song really, I mean, even as a young man, like meant something to me because we didn't hear songs like that about us, especially in the 2000s. It wasn't like a big thing. Maybe during the time of the civil rights movement, maybe during the time during the 70s and the 80s. But I think we lost a little bit of that. And I think she reminded us that, I see you. And, there are black brothers, strong brothers, proud brothers. And we're not, as I was telling Brandon, we're not just these stereotypes. We're not just these projections of their fears and their violence on us in this society. And when I remember, and just tangentially, I remember like when Chadwick Boseman died. Like when I think about black celebrities who use their power and their purchase to talk to us through their artwork, what Angie did, it holds a special place in my heart. Like I mean, folks that do stuff like that because you don't have to do shit like that. We see plenty of celebrities that they bout their paper and they gonna make whatever's gonna make the ass jiggles and make the booties clap, and that's it. And she was someone that was a soul sister that really, really kept us in the center, and she will be missed.
All right. Well, absolutely. Thank you. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Again,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're listening, subscribe, like, follow, whatever. YouTube is the primary platform that we air on live. We also go on Instagram live, get people coming in and out of there. I don't know how to get analytics out of there. Really don't know, but
It's just extra. It's an extra outlet.
yeah, and
That's okay. It's all
I'd
right.
like to go to TikTok live one day, but anyways, it ends up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever flavor you like, your favorite podcast thing. But thank you for the support. The other thing is, I went to the actually got the name in the bookstore, but so I'm gonna pull it up while you tell us what you did the past couple days.
Oh yeah. Well, today we did the Common Heart Walk in Indian Trail. That was good. And they've raised almost $100,000 as their 6th year doing it. We walk around the park. There's several different organizations. I think they had 39 organizations that were key sponsors, and that was really good. They feed 7,500 people a month here in Union County. These are the critical structural needs that helps meet the people in the moment. Now, of course, as we talk about systemic problems, we shouldn't, in the richest country in the world, have anybody going hungry. And as we have a discussion on that another day about the pedagogy of the oppressed, as Paulo Freire calls it. But it was still a good event. There was a lot of happy faces. I love the t-shirts they give out. They're always very fly. I wear mine to bed from last year, and I got a new one this year. I brought the wife and kids. The kids had their face painted. Goofy was there from Disney.
Okay.
Yes, the Goofy from Daggone Goofy movie. So he was there. Kids took pictures. And they got some steps in, man. And they got some steps in. And by the time we got done, it was like everybody was exhausted. Kids took a nap in the car, and then we went to the bookstore, Second and Charles. And I'd never been there before, but my wife had went last weekend, and it's pretty cool. It's like a used secondhand book place.
Yeah, I have been there. Yep.
Yeah, I never been there before till today. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
What about you, man?
And speaking of running, like I should join you there. I need to definitely get back in shape, tip top shape.
I mean, circles of shape. Circles of shape, brother.
Damn. But definitely need to be in tip top shape for whatever is coming down the pipeline.
That's true.
But,
that's true.
What organization did you run with? What was the?
Common Heart. So they run a food pantry here.
Okay, but isn't it like don't they have like or like didn't you have like a
the Donkey Trotters?
Yeah,
yes, the Donkey Trotters is the group. Yeah, that's kind of the incognito Democrats.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was good.
Okay, was good. I think I donated to that one. I saw a couple people put up their things and
yeah, Delta Sigma Theta is huge out there. Of course, the Deltas, they're built off of community service, so they always got a table. They're always showing up, and they always got their regalia on their letters. The AKAs were out there, a few other black groups, black churches. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So on Friday they had the economic blackout. Where
That's
we
right.
were supposed to shop.
I went to Target about 3 times because there was nobody in there.
But you're supposed to not shop and unless you're shopping blue, shopping minority, whatever, and using cash. So I did make my way over to a bookstore, somebody on Threads who was interacting with the Radical Roots, and her bookstore is called Archimedes Loft in Monroe, North Carolina, and it's in Angeline's, in the back of Angeline's.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's got some banned books. She's got black, brown, LGBTQ. So a nice little boutique, some nice selection. So yeah, check it out, support it. And yeah. So
how was so let me ask you, how was the economic blackout for you? Did you feel like, all right,
you know, I
like,
had to think. Well, I had to think. So when I was going to the bookstore, I'm like, man, I'm thirsty. Let me go get a water. And I was like, oh, I can't. Like I can, but I'm not going to. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
right, you're not going to.
And so she had some water there. I was like, let me buy one of those off you, or donate for. She was having an event that night.
She's like, sir, I've drank out of this bottle. I'm like, ma'am, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty.
And then like I think I was like hungry at night, and like I opened like just the Uber Eats, and I was like, I'm probably not gonna. And then I was like, oh shit, like I can't. Like, so it had to consciously think about it a couple times.
Yeah.
Even like paying bills, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pay it. It's not due today, so I'm
not today. Yeah, not today. Not today, Captain.
So yeah, it's something that it's a start. I think one day is at the end of the month. Yeah, it might affect the February if people wait till March, but at the end of the day, like people wait and then they just go shop it and they get whatever they need. Yeah. So it's actually like a change in mindset for a lot of folks. And
correct.
So, like you gotta buy essentials, stop buying on things frivolously and things, and stop eating corporate. So start shopping locally, start those type of things. And so I think that's what people are who haven't even been thinking about economic empowerment, things like that, for like I've been trying not to shop at Walmart for many years. I don't shop at Home Depot for many years. Like there's places like I go to Denny's. I haven't been, Denny's. I've always known Denny's to be racist since I was 7.
A child.
Trash, right? So like it's just something you don't do. Like
ain't been to Denny's. I couldn't tell you what's on the Denny's menu.
Yeah, I think I've been like once. Like my mom was like, "Yeah, they're racist." And like my dad took.
I was like, "Okay, got it."
I was like, and it was trash, right? So I've never been.
You know, it's crazy. Like to that same point, I've never been to a Jack in the Box because when I was a kid, I'll never forget. I was like maybe 8 years old. They had an E. coli breakout, and I know that, but that was like in Pittsburgh in 1994 or whatever. But since that moment, I was like, I have never eaten Jack in the Box. But those moments stay with you. But on the racial tip, absolutely, it's like, okay, cool. Denny's is racist. Got it.
Yep.
But did it work out for you well? I mean, for us, it was very quiet for us. We were very chill. I mean, I think we cooked dinner that night, so no need for takeout. And to your point, this was not a shot across the bow to the corporations. This was meant for us to remember. This was us to remember, because when you're not, we're not going into the convenience stores of a Target that has everything from pretty much your food to your cleaners to your clothes. You have to remember, okay, if Target just shut down, where would I have to go? Mm-hmm. If I need to go buy a pack of T-shirts and Target doesn't exist anymore, where would I have to go? And I think it's strengthening our muscles to become more, just again, we talk about civic engagement, but also like community engagement, right? And like other places. So this wasn't really meant for them. It was meant for us. And it was a moment for us to say, do we have the discipline to start to take collective action? So hopefully let folks start to think, and hopefully they can start to do more. But again, it's in our DNA as Black folks to always say, you know what, don't go where you aren't. Don't go go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated.
Yep, and hopefully it builds into a larger movement, something more long term and sustained. And that includes, all colors of the rainbow. I know this one was heavily pushed by the religious community, the black religious community, but there were some other people. I know there's a little bit of controversy out there. At the end of the day, like it's a coalition, or needs to be a coalition.
That's right, it needs to be.
So yeah. I know like Instagram likes to kick us off at hours. Just trying to figure out how to get past that limitation.
That's all right. Well, jump over to YouTube, y'all.
Yeah, jump over to YouTube.
Come on, get over here.
Where the fun is.
Let's go.
So
The
we got
fun
some,
half.
we got some topics, man. There's a lot that's happened this
Oh
week.
my God. Topics. We need a theme song. Topics.
So the first is that I have on the agenda is Elon Musk, his cabinet meeting.
Oh, yes.
And
Our dear South African President Elon Musk. Elongated muskrat. Yes.
So I'm gonna just bring us into that clip real quick, and
Yeah, do that.
We'll
talk about another side.
Yep.
The first cabinet meeting of his second term in office, the president
Let me get this here.
Hi-yo. Folks, again, we need a producer. Ron, he has so much intellectual capacity, but sometimes the fingers don't move as fast as the brain.
Yep. All right, here we go. All right.
During the first cabinet meeting of his second term in office, the president introduced Elon Musk, who did not have a seat at the table but sat off to the side. Musk defending Doge's efforts to slash the size of the federal workforce, saying the department is not perfect and is moving quickly to fix its mistakes.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the...
He got up there and basically talked, and he was doing the talking while Trump was slouched, looking over at his phone. It was quite...
The first person to speak at the very first cabinet meeting this year was elongated muskrat. Now, folks want to say he's looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, and he's identifying all this. This man is not an accountant. This man does not have any supreme brain capacity to be able to do any of these things that he's proclaiming to do. We are getting robbed in front of our face, and they are telling us it's something else. And there's a large, maybe not a large amount of people, but there's a large percentage of people that believe the lies. And mind you, why was he not dressed in a suit anyway?
Yeah. So,
but look at this. Look at this man.
But he's also getting hit, and we would expect that.
Support here because this is act president. I actually just put myself a Hubble tech support here because this is actually as crazy as it sounds. That is almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing.
I think it's even better.
Helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems.
Yeah, it's you don't. Okay, yeah,
there was. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the video. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know. I thought it was just mute. I thought it was muted for everybody. Continue.
Oh no, I didn't know you can't hear it.
It's all good. I was talking over. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
No, it's all good. But yeah, so they had that, and I don't know what do you think about that, other than him being the first person to speak in a cabinet meeting and.
Well, I think we have to be honest with ourselves that, this is a hostile takeover. This is what happens when plutocrats and they used to be called aristocrats take over governments. And this is what happens when there is a willing plurality of elected officials who are obedient to their financial overlords, which that's what Elon Musk is. And it's not only that, and I'm hearing a lot like, well, there's going to be a lot of infighting with Elon Musk and the MAGA populists and the Steve Bannons. But the thing is, they all are aligned on having unitary executive theory, right? Where it's just power held by one man who is the king. And now Trump is just the rubber stamp for that, but we know the real person who's controlling this is Elon Musk, and we know that he has this goal of trying to become the first trillionaire. So all these impacts of trying to get $880 billion over, of course not in 1 year, but it's over the span of 9 years. But this is meant to help undergird that goal for him, and he's doing it. And on top of that, he believes in a white patriarchal state. This is why when he talks about America isn't having enough babies, he means white babies. And he knows that because the thing about it is there's more people today than there were yesterday in this country. And that's not based off immigration. That's just based off people are having babies. Now, who is not having babies are white people due to deaths of despair, due to their economic precarity, due to all these issues. And so when you hear J.D. Vance talk at the March for Lives or whatever it was in D.C., and Elon Musk talking about we need to repopulate the country, he's talking about white babies. So when we talk about, so when people tell you that this is not a racial issue, it's 100% a racial issue. And we need to stop letting people gaslight us that this is not about race. This is not about gender, because Elon Musk has 13 kids and he's upset that they're not all boys. He also believes in a kind of a patriarchal stance. This is why he hates that he has a trans child. And I do forget his trans daughter's name, but all power to her. We love her because she be checking his ass on social media. But like, this is why he believes in this kind of this binary where there's a certain type of man, and it makes sense. The son of someone from apartheid South Africa that believes there's a certain class of human being that is better than other beings that may not even be human to him. And he's willing to exploit us like batteries. So that's what this moment is. And we should all be, you know, maybe not afraid because they're all losers, but be aware.
I think we should be afraid. I think, when you're motivated to be the world's first trillionaire, one of your primary motivations, and also to re-envision the world as a white world, and I think what the white population is less than 10% globally, right? And so when you have
7%
about that, so
7%.
but you talk about apartheid South Africa, where he's going over to Germany and he's aligning with essentially what's the neo-Nazi group of today, the AfD. And he's doing Hitler salutes at these conventions,
or was it an awkward gesture?
And he never said it wasn't. So
he never
denied it. He never denied it. So let's stop fooling ourselves and take it for what it is. And then the other thing is that they talk about, we'll probably talk about on the show one day, this dark enlightenment and this Curtis Yarvin and this techno oligarchy, like of
this he's like a guru,
re-envisioning the world without democracy but ran by corporations and these little neighborhood. I'm learning about it too, so like I'm new to this. I know we're gonna have a guest, I think, is gonna talk a little bit about that too, but that's I mean, this is somebody who's living their midlife crisis, or they're what they envision in their head and what they think is right, and really just experimenting. We're an experiment at this point,
for him,
because even he goes into Twitter and X and he just slashes and cuts it, and that's fine, like for a small business social media site, and it had issues and stuff, but to slash all these government contracts and agencies indiscriminately, these things are going to have an effect, and those things are coming to light more and more, and there's so many things we don't know about. There's people that have died overseas already because of the things that he's done. So
and this man is a sadist. Like, don't forget, he was putting those Neuralinks in the chimpanzees' heads. The chimpanzees were killing themselves trying to dig the chips out, banging their heads against concrete. This is what he wants people to experiment, do human trials. And all those MAGA folks that love Elon Musk, and he's telling how it is, and he's a free speech absolutist. Y'all be the first ones to sign up. Y'all do it. Y'all do it. Y'all got it.
The mark of the beast, right? That's that mark of the beast they always talk about.
Go be a beast. Go be a beast. So I know one thing. The guy that can't stop his satellites from falling out of the skies or his cars from crashing into playgrounds, I definitely don't trust him putting a chip in your brain. And why the fuck do you need a chip in your brain? And it's like, and there's a tweet going around that about him trying to save up all this money. They're like, what is he saving up money for? For hell? Like, what is he saving money up for fucking hell? It's like, get out of here, man. But anyway,
so the next topic, man.
Yeah, what do we got? What's next? We got rapid fire.
Oval Office betrayal of Ukraine.
Yikers.
Live in action. So I'm gonna go ahead and just play a little bit of that too.
I'll be quiet this time. I
gotta figure out how to get you to be.
It's all good,
but we'll do that for the next show. So
yeah, it's all good.
I'm not telling you,
because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us,
no. In this entire meeting, you said thank you.
Today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
please. You think that if you will speak, we're
you know, basically, you know, here's Vance, and so this is, if you watch the whole thing, like this is towards the end. There was one more. We're gonna do one more question, and Vance, you know, has to throw this in there, throw the whole thing, and it's probably planned. You know, my guess is it's planned. This whole alignment with Russia is nothing new with Trump,
right?
And you know, the signs have been there with Tulsi. So this isn't something that's like. Yeah, it's absolutely unexpected that you would see this in the Oval Office play out live and in living color, but the whole scheme of things is really not a surprise of how they're realigning. You know, and you have to go back to 2019 when there was calls when Trump was talking to Zelensky, and he was wanting Zelensky to say bad things about Biden and all of these things about, you know, withholding military aid. And so this is why he got impeached. Like one of the times he got impeached. And so, you know, this is like, and I think a lot of people forgot about that, right?
Well, I think that there's this is why, again, I don't have too much excitement around the town hall voters who are like, you know, we just didn't know and blah blah. This man did all this stuff before. This man, like, you didn't believe him the first time he withheld aid from Ukraine, and I need you to do me a favor though. You remember that line? I need you to do me a favor though, specifically to Zelensky, to dig up dirt and all this. And then, to your point, he was impeached for it. So this is I like to say it all the time, this is the imperial boomerang. The things that happen around the world come back home, and these, as Malcolm X said, these chickens are coming home to roost. But yes, it was despicable, it was shameful, but you know what, America is despicable and shameful, and that's just the truth. You know, we live here. It doesn't mean that we have to love all the systems and the way they are. We experience them on the most material way possible as Black people and as marginalized people. And that's why, and to a degree, I'm not happy that Donald Trump won, but I'm happy this stuff is happening because it's letting the mask fall. The mask that so many believed existed, the mask that they're mad at Colin Kaepernick. How dare you not stand? I mean, though, that type of mask, you know what I'm talking about? That mask where it's like, how dare you not love this country? How dare you not put your hand on your heart? This is what this country has always been.
Yeah, it's like if you had a you know, a relative that was addicted to drugs, and and if you love them, would you try to help them out, put them in the right direction, or would you just say, yeah, I love you, and go on out there and keep on doing it? No, like you want to look out for that person. If you really love something or someone, you're gonna make it better, right? And so, like, for me, and growing up in America, is like, you know, I had this idea of, like, you know, America and this great place, and, you know, America's the best. And you know, as I grew older, like starting to understand like the what the real world is like, and saying like, well, I want to continue moving in the right direction, right? And so, like, that's always been but people will say, or Trump will say, you were call us a radical leftist who hates America, or the enemy within. And you know, that's painting a pretty broad brush just for people who want to make America better, you know, whether it's DI or all these things. And
because these are people, Ram, that they got their political bones or their political understanding in the asymmetrical game, right? These are people that when they came through the world, it was already tilted towards them. So any sort of threat towards that asymmetry, there's this idea that, you know, the reason that quote unquote some Black men voted for Trump or believe in conservatism, because truly, I truly do believe the rhetoric of Republicans makes sense to Black men,
patriarchal,
right? But not even the patriarchal stuff, but like the idea of like a meritocracy. That's what Black men have always said. They've always said, I want I want to be graded off my merit. That's what I want, not off the color of my skin. Grade me for how good I am at the damn job, because we've always been fantastic. And the Republicans are saying that, but what they mean by that is your merit is just if you believe in what we believe in, and if you're white.
Right.
And that's how folks can get kind of wrapped into that, because they also kind of believe that. They're like, well, again, they're saying the right stuff. You're saying that I need to be accepted because I'm black or I'm a woman or whatever the case may be. They're saying it's just off the strength of my own muscles. That's what I've always wanted. That's what we've always wanted as black people. Why are you all on the Democratic plantation? And you see how that can kind of work on very feeble-minded people who don't have a deeper political ethic rooted in love, rooted in liberation, rooted in freedom. But you can see how that can work.
Right. Exactly. It's a little bit frustrating too, because
no question.
They want they mean it with malice when they talk about merit, and that's not what they're talking about. Because if they were talking about merit, we wouldn't be looking at a room full of unqualified people in the cabinet, right? Who have no experience. Hegseth, the DUI hired, all white. And we know that there's people that are well, in this case, far more qualified. But
come on.
So and they just fired the 4-star general from the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Come on.
They replaced him with just
someone that had to get a waiver to even get. I mean, it's like come on.
He wasn't qualified enough. They had to give him a waiver.
Come on, man.
And,
that's meritocracy.
And
that's a meritocracy.
Hegseth gets up there and he gives away his cards. Like, they don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to be in these places. And they can go into a room and say they know something. And even Elon Musk. I mean, this man he's not an inventor. He's not a scientist.
He's not.
He's just figured out how to be a businessman and take advantage of people and do those things. But he doesn't actually know all these things that his companies are developing, right?
No.
And so, because he's a billionaire, he can walk into this room and these folks will be like, "Oh, you know how to fix our government?" Like, even though you've never actually done anything in government other than take money off the money, government's teeth. Like, no, like what?
Right. I mean, you see what just happened with when they fired the first, it was the nuclear codes, right? The folks that were handling nuclear material or whatever the case may be. And then they had to rehire them, and they couldn't find them because they were using the government email to try to reach back out to them, and they didn't work no more. Now it's Ebola. They fired those people, and then they need to rehire those people, and they can't find those people. Now, of course, Elon Musk is going on his broke down, social media platform talking about, we turned everything back on. But there's an insider that still works there saying, let me tell you something. Nothing for Ebola since Elon shut it down has been turned back on. Yeah. So this is what happens when you let folks that believe in their just innate intelligence run complex systems that required everybody that was already there. And I guarantee the folks that were there were women and people of color and white people. Everybody was there. But these are the losers that they're trying to tell us how to live.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this clip where he says he makes mistakes.
So people say, like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola, Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption. But we do need to move quickly if we're to achieve.
Right, so so he's admitting that they make mistakes. So we knew that they've made a lot of mistakes. But
right, they are a mistake.
And I'll give an example of the mistakes. A mistake. 9/11. The intelligence was there.
Yep.
Like, they knew with the two of the terrorists. They knew they were on watch list. They knew what they were at. They knew what they were doing, and there was a mistake that somebody didn't act on it. There's mistakes that these mistakes are costly. The mistakes are currency is humans. The currency is people. Right. And so whether it's Ebola or USAID,
FAA,
long list of things. I mean, yeah, the FAA. We see these things like happening. It's not. I don't think it's a coincidence, and we're going to see more of those things. And like I said, we're going to see a lot of these things. And when you make all these changes, especially all at once, the amount of unintended consequences is going to be staggering. And when you think about the nuclear code, like, these people protecting the nuclear sites, imagine there being a gap in whatever somebody's role is for 1 hour, right? Now we're talking about, you know, the cyber, the CISA, which is the organization that, you know, helps protect the government agencies and helps protect American businesses. All these things are cutting back. They're stopped talking about Russia. So,
in fact, they actually shut down the organization. I think I sent you that link. I was just shocking. There's a guy that he works in, like, security or cybersecurity, and he was saying that the watchdog for cyber interference, specifically from Russia, was shut down, and that they actually halted any of the reporting and any of the counteracting effects of that as well. Is that what this is? I can't.
Yeah, that's what the article is about. And talking about how they're retreating in the fight against Russian cyber threats. So they're saying, like, the offensives of things that, you know, counter. They're halting that. There's still rumors that it's also defensive measures, which I don't really. For me, I don't understand how that you would have to go out of your way intentionally. Like, so for those who know, I'm in cybersecurity, like, you'd have to go extremely out of your way intentionally to ignore Russia. Russia is one of the top offenders of cybercrime in the world, especially against the United States. So there's either two things that are happening here. Well, what I believe is that they're trying to appease Putin. I do believe that the bigger picture is to realign with Putin.
No question.
And I think we're going to see that in coming weeks because so the other thing that I think can happen is that, well, for one, as Elon Musk has been in government systems, has access to government data. We don't know anything about what he's doing. So the systems are compromised, right? Because there's no oversight. The oversight committee, they don't even know what's going on. Right, so
they don't know
have to assume
who runs Doge. They're like, who runs Doge?
So you assume compromise. Like, that's, I mean, in cybersecurity, like, you generally just assume that you're compromised in a lot of areas, right? So, like, that you
probably for like a lot less, right?
Yeah, you build security around the assumption that you're like there's somebody in your environment, but this has happened, and it's very hard to come back from that. Right. And so he and Elon, we know for a fact that Elon has had conversations with Putin.
Yep.
Leading up to the election, and I'm sure after. This is a private.
Back at the beginning of the Ukraine war, he was. Remember, he was doing all that, and he shut off Starlink at the behest of Russia.
Right.
Like, so this guy, he's been in the tank again. We are seeing an alignment of the worst people that we possibly could know. And what kills me is there's certain people that just don't believe it because they believe that we can vote our way out of this. And unfortunately, we cannot vote our way out of fascism. We cannot vote our way out of totalitarianism. And this is why I go back to those folks in those town halls. And I say it again, I say it every time. White folks ain't mad enough.
They're getting madder. I think they are. But
all right, well,
I've been saying, this whole time, I've been saying, like, people aren't mad enough. People aren't paying attention. There's about a 1 month lag, right? The people are behind about a month of where they need to be, but it gets harder and harder as we go.
I think that lag is when it's hitting them. They wouldn't give a shit if it was just
absolutely right.
Trans people. They would be fat and happy in their Nebraska couches and all their shit and their double wides.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to a clip later, but he's one of the men in the town hall. I'm not a Democrat, but I don't like what you're doing to veterans. And see, so that's what it's coming like.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah, I started thinking about that. It's like, oh well, that's probably all we're gonna get because he's not. Like, unfortunately, that's all we're gonna get.
That's the best it's going to be.
We'll come back to that one. But yeah, he said, so the White House is reportedly dropping Russia from its list of threats to cybersecurity and instead honing in on China, part of the Trump administration's broader effort to curry favor with the Kremlin and push for a peace deal that would end the country's ongoing war in Ukraine. So, this is a KGB guy. Like, even if he says, hey, yeah, I'm going to stop that. Like, come on.
Yeah, right. You know what?
And this is a guy, Trump is a guy who probably gave him secrets before, you know what I'm saying? Like, handed it over.
Come on.
Because this is CrowdStrike. So this is a again, I'm going to get my little cybersecurity zone real quick.
Can't
This is
see it.
basically
Zoom
like
in.
a list of all of the adversaries in the world, or at least like the top ones, or nation states, state sponsored. So you got Russia with, you know, their they call them fancy, they call them bear is the code word for Russia. But there's all these things, there's all these organizations, and you know, Russia in itself, they've had some of the largest cyber attacks on America, one being the Russian interference. So we know there was interference, things that they were doing. Nowadays, that's probably accepted for, you know, misinformation, disinformation. That's just accepted as the way it is. Whoever's it works out for. Republicans have embraced it. But they've had other, you know, basically they've had other attacks on the United States. So one was the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. Another one was called a company called SolarWinds. They're a security IT monitoring company. It was a supply chain attack, which meant that they deployed we'll just call it a virus for everyone. They deployed it to the software itself. So when they pushed out an update, it propagated to every single customer that had it. And then they had compromised every customer, including government agencies, right? Another one that I worked on, let's see, this one right here. This is Kaseya in my space. This was in 2021. Russia was involved with compromising a managed services provider, which meant that they basically were used the software that was common among IT providers. Again, used it to get to client networks, over 150 networks. This gentleman who was affected, he speaks at all these events and things like that. So these are all Russian things. Like Russian has had a lot of, I don't actually know if the United States has ever like pulled off an attack without having their finger. I've never heard of something like that. So I'm not quite sure what like the offensive is and what we're dialing back. But you have to, I've been talking about this for since 2016. You know, that the cyber warfare would come, and you know, we've had an attack. Putin's been doing this. I've been talking about it for this isn't me jumping on a bandwagon, right? So
right. You got the receipts. But the thing is, but there's a lot of people out there that didn't want to listen to us. There's a lot of people out there that didn't want to listen to you. A lot of people that didn't listen to Black women. And now we're sitting here and we're supposed to all of a sudden feel bad. But like, again, we can't do nothing more. All we can do is vote. All we could have done back then was vote and get our people to vote and that was it. And then that's what we did.
Yeah, you can find a clip of Kamala Harris and she's telling you,
that's right.
He's gonna roll over for Putin. He's gonna give it up on day, like, and it's clockwork. And it's like these. Then you know what's his name, the gentleman from South Africa on Comedy Central, Trevor Noah, and he said that, I don't know if anyone's ever seen that clip where he's like, listen to Black women. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are people who have to go through the experience and living in the realness of it. Yeah, and that's the majority, and it's fine that we have to go, like, but you have
fine.
It's not fine.
That's why we're fucking tired. To be honest, exactly. That's why we're fucking tired.
In the way that they want us to, right? And so, but there's a perspective, and this is why DEI, or the diversity part, kind of connected to that, is actually the diversity in thought of why it's actually effective, why it's actually beneficial to actually understand these other perspectives, right? And so you're not just looking at things through a myopic white man's point of view, right? And so if people don't want to listen, then people don't want to listen. But now I think you're gonna say, well, you were right. I apologize. Like Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat.
I saw that.
Do you regret confirming Mark Rubio? Yes, it was a mistake.
We could have told you that. That thing is like, we could have fucking told you that. Just because he was in the Senate with us. Give a damn. And this is why hopefully, you know, there's this new push right now where they're trying to get Dems to not go to the president's statement towards Congress. It's not called the State of the Union because the first one's never called that of an administration. But they don't want Dems to show up to the State of the Union. And they're like, you know, y'all should do your own thing. And be like, because this person is working outside the law. He is actively trying to destroy all the institutions, and he is an illiberal government official who is actively trying to throw a Molotov cocktail into your daily life. They should do their own political thing, because the more we normalize it, then folks are going to be like, hold on, for 8 years, you know, you guys said this guy was a threat to democracy. And then now you're all going to sit there and listen to him speak.
And he's going to get, you know what's going to happen? They're going to get there and he's going to shit on them real time live on TV, and he's going to
it's going to be terrible.
And so what I said is like, you know, don't go and hold your own State of the Union
hold your
at
own.
The same time. And so I mark my words that he's going to shit on them in person and they're going to make them look stupid. And just like Michelle Obama, she said, and I wish Barack didn't go, but she told him, and look, you know, at the inauguration,
sister said, "I'm doing something else. You know what I'm doing? I'm taking a nap. I ain't watching the shit. I ain't showing up. Y'all." And then what did he do? He did all his Trumpian bullshit. But you're right, Rom. Like, we need folks in this moment, because the more we act normal, the more. And I love what Brandon said. Most folks think about politics. What he said, 4 minutes a day or 4 minutes a week or whatever. Right. He's right. So the more y'all keep normalizing it, then the more folks who don't pay attention will be like, well, I guess it's all good.
Yep.
I guess it's all right. So, but yeah,
we got about.
Let's do one more. Let's do one more thing.
So we got Gold Card, Washington Post, the U.S. We skip that one, or Joy Reid. Which one we want to talk about? Let's end with Joy Reid.
Let's end with Joy Reid. It's a little more of a black tone.
Yeah. So, as a lot of folks know, Joy Reid, she was over at MSNBC. She was fired last Thursday. Her last show was on last Friday. But they've canceled.
It was on Monday. It was on Monday.
Oh, was it on Monday? Monday. Okay.
We found out. A lot of us found out on Sunday. Like all of us regular human beings, not like folks who work in the industry. We found out on Sunday.
Okay, but timeline. Yeah. So okay. Along with a few others at MSNBC, but the two.
Alex Wagner.
Yeah, there was two folks on primetime of color, and they were let go. And this is, you know, they've left Tiffany Cross go, and they let
Mehdi Hassan.
Thank you, Mehdi Hassan.
Zerlina Maxwell.
Yeah, and we talked about this early on our show too. Of like, we can't rely on the MSNBCs and the ABCs and the NBC like to get us out of this, and to, you know, because again, they're owned by the corporation, the top of who owns them, who controls them. So,
and it's all interconnected, you know. I watch Mark Lamont Hill's show as frequently as I possibly can, but he was talking about it the Monday night that she got let go, or her final show, and he said the same woman, I do forget her name, they let him go at CNN when he spoke at the UN in response to Palestinian rights years ago, well before October 7th, well before this genocide. And he said Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. That same woman that let him go, she's been hired on. She was a mediocre white woman. Sounds like it's CNN at the time, but then she's just been rehired because she was over the digital stuff at MSNBC. She's now the new president of MSNBC, where Rashida Jones was the president of MSNBC. But she's also the same woman that let go of Joy Reid and all these people of color. Now, we know MSNBC has been tanking ratings since the election, again, because you cannot tell folks that Donald Trump is the existential threat to all of democracy. Then all of a sudden your morning primetime host, Joy Reid, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski go down to, you know, Far-a-Largo and kiss the ring, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's all good, because now we're going to feel like we've been lied to. And folks are like, you know what, you're not going to blame me for this guy getting in, because that's what the coverage started to become. It was the left, it was the wokeness, it was the DEI, it was the trans, and folks don't want to hear that shit.
I stopped watching MSNBC because of Joe and me kind of go running on down there. So
I used to hate watch them. And I mean, I could show you months, years worth of tweets that I had. Do I respond to them? Really? I mean, I was like, they were going to listen to me. But like, I would have me and a few other folks. We became like a community of people on Twitter that we will hate watch Joe Scarborough in the mornings, and we would just comment about, oh, there you go. And they would see me, and now, you know, and because he was a piece of shit. He was always a Republican shill trying to cover up his conservative bona fides and try to whitewash or mainstream Republican talking points on the liberal network. And in reality, he was just always a Republican. He didn't care about everybody. And, you know, I'm glad they're losing ratings. But if it's about losing ratings, they should have fired Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. They should have fired Nicole Wallace. She lost 67% of her voter base, her her viewer base. Joy Reid, yes, the MSNBC took a hit. Joy Reid only lost 21%.
Yeah.
So this is not about ratings, and people need to stop saying it's about
It's
ratings.
not
And
about
I heard
ratings.
a guy on a podcast I listened to. He said her show was just unwatchable. He's a white guy. Joy Reid's show was just unwatchable. I'm like, for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's definitely, it leaves a gap. I mean, you got Don Lemon, and you got Jim Acosta, and you got all these people, and there's a theme, and it's the same people that are saying get rid of DEI. They're saying basically they're getting rid of these people for a reason, because they don't want these voices to be heard, and so
Not
it comes
to be woke.
it comes down to oh dang, I didn't even see the chat till now. It comes down to independent media, or because at the end of the day, YouTube is still owned by Google, right?
That's
so
correct.
These people that are getting big on YouTube, Midas Touch,
Yep.
Don Lemon's building a following. I think Joy and Reid will probably. So at some point soon, there needs to be another media that we can rely on, whether it comes from I think it's Byron Allen is his name.
Oh yes,
I don't want to get him confused with the other Byron, and then
Donald's.
Yeah, and
I was like,
they're talking about
that's what I thought. I was like, Byron Donald's got some shit.
they're talking about
Tyler. Going on?
They talking about Tyler Perry coming in. Maybe even Mark Cuban bankroll. Something like so. At the end of the day, like Mark Cuban is a billionaire, but at the end of the day, like you need to have control of this media because, or not control of the media, but control of the power that that be behind the media, because at any given point, and who knows what Google's doing? Google could be nerfing, suppressing these folks on their own platform. They make money, so but at some point Trump comes down and says, look, you're not getting this. You're not getting this. You're not gonna get. We're gonna deny you from acquiring this company or merging. Then they're gonna say, well, we're gonna sell you out because that is more valuable than your viewership and the ads spend that you bring and things like that. So
that was the beauty of what we did on Friday, and I know you were part of that. You joined in. Dr. Kim Harney did a rapid response. For the North Carolina Democratic Party, but honestly, for Black folks, Black Democrats, Black left-leaning people, and she had it broken down in sections. And me and you, I know we stayed on as long as possible. And each section, it was community activism, it was the electoral and folks who were doing that type of stuff. It was media, and it was all centered around why it's important to us. Because what did we just say with Brandon on the call, and what have we've been talking about for months now, is that they never come and talk to us. They never listen to what we care about. It's more we get talked to, that paternalism, that we know better for you. If you just come in and vote, we'll get to you. Elijah said it, right? After this election, we promise we'll have that conversation. And Dr. Hardy held space for us on Blackout Friday, on Economic Blackout Friday, on the last day of Black History Month. And her question to me was, what's the importance of Black media? And that was my point, was that we don't have that filter, that billionaire filter, that curation of the knowledge and because media just doesn't happen, right? News just doesn't pop into your brain like, I know what's happening in Ukraine. Someone creates a story, someone creates a narrative, and then they push that to you. And I'm not trying to sound crazy. They're called producers, right? They're called writers. And if you look at the end of a news segment, there's people that do those jobs. If you look in the back behind Joe Scarborough or Nicole Wallace or whoever, there's always people behind the glass wall who are typing. That's what they're doing. They're searching. They're analyzing news, and they're composing it for the next segment. So for Black media, a lot of the time, as we said with Brandon, a lot of stuff is like 3,000 feet up in the air, or it just doesn't really apply to us, or it's just a waste of time. So I think it's important for Black media in this moment, because we've always been the truth tellers, Ron. Right? Black women have always been the canaries in the coal mine for this country. Black men have always been right there as well as leaders, and as also canaries in the coal mine. So I think for us, and that's why I'm so glad from this next chapter of my life, as my time as the Democratic Party chair of Union County is coming to an end, is that I don't have to have the constraints. Not saying I was super constrained before, as you know, on what I was saying, but I could just talk to people in an honest way. I'm not trying to get them to vote for X, Y, Z. Of course, I want them to vote, but dealing with people who don't live in reality is very difficult, even if they're Democrats.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think that this what's coming down is I do think that there is going to be some sort of new media. And Substack is kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
Patreon, but there's something brewing. People don't just go away. There's a huge gap in opportunity in the market. Myself, I watch Midas Touch probably, and listen to podcasts and things like that, and
Me too.
Parnas and things like that. And those are people who are right now predominantly on YouTube, Instagram. So
TikTok.
there's a gap. We got to get off of it. Because those things might not always exist and be available to us, and they can take that away just as quick.
In a heartbeat.
You can get somebody, Elon might own TikTok, and he doesn't like something Bill Burr says, and he's flagging his account, and he doesn't like one of their nut cases on their side says, and he's suspending their account. So you just have to be aware, and we were talking about this earlier with Target and things, and if these businesses cease to exist to us, and we don't want to spend money there, we got to start thinking about how we communicate. So,
but that's the beauty of Black people in this country. We've always made a way, and we're not going to stop making a way. And I think you brought this up about the DEI stuff. Like if Trump says there's no more DEI, like we're still going to celebrate Black people. We're still going to uplift Black people. We're still going to. I want to go see the Captain America movie, and folks are like, don't go see the Captain America movie. It's terrible. And I went to go see it. I really liked it.
Yeah,
I really liked the movie.
Yeah,
have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
I'm not a big. I'm not a big Marvel. To be honest,
all good. But you don't have to be even big into Marvel. But there was a lot of coded things in there for Black people, and that's what I liked about it. It's like, okay, good, because this moment, it doesn't matter if you try to say we're going to erase you out of history, And I posted a clip from the show. I never watched the show, Falcon and Winter Soldier, of Anthony Mackie's character Sam Wilson, who plays the new Captain America, and he's talking about what it means to be a Black man carrying the stars and stripes. And dare I say, it's one of the most honest minute and 14 in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, I'll send it to you. But it made me like, okay, I got to go see this movie now. Like I got to go. If this was the show, if this part was in the show, I got to go see the movie. And I get, of course, we know it's rooted around Marvel. It's Disney. It's I get it, but we cannot stop supporting Black people because they want us to fail, right? We've already heard, oh, you should boycott it because the Israeli character, and dare I say, the Israeli character was a non-starter. It doesn't really matter. She was non-consequential. She's not appealing to the eye. It was not good acting.
What's the controversy around that?
So one, Israel. There's this Israeli Marvel character named Sabra. First of all, the name Sabra is a terrible name for an Israeli character, even back then when the character was created in the 1980s, because Sabra was the name of a massacre Israel committed in Lebanon in 1986. So the Sabra hummus, the Sabra hummus out there that exists, you should never buy that. Because it's an Israeli product named after a massacre that they created in Lebanon. That's literally the name of it, and that's why that's the name. So anyway, this character, she is this Israeli character named Sabra, and she flies around and does all this shit. And for some reason, Rom, I don't know, in the comic books, the characters she only seemed to beat up were Arabs. Weird. And of course, that helps the longer term narrative that Israel is just this freedom fighter against these savage Arab people. But anyway, her character, they rewrote her after the genocide started because people were like, we're not going to go see it because she had a more prominent role. So they rewrote it, minimized it, and they do bring up she's from Israel, and that's it during the movie. But she's inconsequential in the movie. But Sam Wilson, and he has a Latino sidekick. It's very rooted in our experience, especially going through the military, especially going through these rungs of political power, because the president is Harrison Ford, who is also the Red Hulk. I mean, that's not really a spoiler, but
yeah,
and how we have to operate through that. But yeah, I thought it was good, and we need stuff to show us in all of our lights and all of our complexity and how hard it is to deal with whiteness, no matter what. And again, I posted it in the Union County Democratic Party because again, that's how I feel as the chair in this county. And I'm not trying to do this whole woe is me thing, but it's like, it's quite difficult to tell people honest things and they're still saying that you don't. I shouldn't even listen to you because you don't deserve to be there, and your perspective is wrong because that's not my perspective. That's not the way I live. I love this country. This country is amazing. This country can do no wrong, and we're like, this country can do a lot of wrong.
Yeah.
There's books and libraries filled with how wrong this country has done.
Hopefully, your predecessor will take heed your message and continue to invite you back into these spaces. I personally look at
I'm gonna keep going.
I look at Union County, and I was surprised to see a black man as the chair. I was happy, but I was also surprised, and I think that the message that you delivered is absolutely the right message, and now more than ever, of like, people need to understand like why these things happen, and you can't fight against something you don't understand. And if you want to be in denial about it, then I guess we can just start kissing up to Mother Russia. So you know what I mean. So, but I also think that it also agreed to you that you have to kind of talk to your own, because you walk in and it's as a black man talking to and this is a group of Democrats, so they were open to it. A lot of the message, I think it was like, but if you're talking to like Jeb, who voted for Trump,
and
you start, they're already dismissing you, like, who is this black man talking to me and talking down on me, and and that's just the reality, right? And so I think the message can be it needs to be delivered, and they can deliver it in a way that maybe isn't so as maybe they can sugarcoat whatever it is, but it is a message that needs to be had. And I think when as you leave the county seat, there's somewhere for you. People, everyone we talk to at the state level, and the vice chairs and things like that. And I hear you talk, and there was another gentleman who was a really good speaker on the call on Friday. Don't want to say his name because I can't remember exactly his name. I'm not gonna say. But anyways, like, you two were both, like, your messaging.
William Munn, the guy I was in conversation with.
No, there was all good speakers, but there was one person.
They were,
who was like, I was like, damn, that was good. Like, when you were speaking,
the young guys.
The young guys. Of them. I mean, like,
everybody. Yeah, it was great. It was a great call. It just hit, like, Dr. Hardy rocked that
on a
call,
Friday
man.
too.
On a Friday with like 4 days notice. Did all that in 4 days.
And I had the kids, and I was like listening, but I was like, man, this is a really good conversation. So that was hopefully there's a recording that gets published on that, so people can watch it, because I really enjoyed that. But anyways. All right, man.
Well, I know we're done. I just want to say one last thing. I know it doesn't really matter, but like, we're at the end of our show. But like, we didn't really get into the Zelensky of it all inside the Oval Office. And of course, it was disrespectful. It was shameful. It was, again, I said earlier that it's pulling the mask off. But one thing I do think this moment is exposing is the racialized hypocrisy of white liberalism. All of a sudden, white liberals who were silent on Palestine and silent on the genocide, all of a sudden they're standing with Ukraine. They understand what land seizure is. They understand what imperialism is. They understand what an invasion is. And that, to me, is like, it proves it's what Huey P. Newton said, to your hat, folks are not thinking internationally and acting locally. So if all of a sudden you can care about a foreign people who look like you, but you don't give a fuck about foreign people who are getting literally wiped off the face of the planet. Like, I don't think that you're going to be a serious or a safe person for me domestically when they start coming for me. And that really puts a pit in my stomach, because I know a lot of folks have been afraid to talk about Palestine, and now that Trump's in office, all of a sudden you see Democrats talking about Palestine, and it's like, don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. So I just want to touch on that. I don't really have a lot to say. It's just, I'm really disgusted with a lot of folks on the left, Democrats, that are all of a sudden finding their international moral center as it relates to Ukraine, but we're completely silent. Well, as we've seen the most grotesque images of people, men, women, and children being dismembered. Again, folks just getting a bag of someone who's 70 kilos and just finding 70 kilos of just food, of not food, but body parts, and saying this has to be my dad, because my dad was 70 kilos. That has not happened in Ukraine. More children have died in Palestine than all the people that have died in Ukraine. So like we're not being real, we're not being honest. And again, I don't think that you're gonna protect me when they come for me here in this country. So that's all I really got to say.
Thank you for bringing that up and just pointing out the hypocrisy of it. And again, just continue to get to root. So Thursday, we'll be back on Thursday. Definitely think we'll dig into that a little bit more and
let's do that.
Connect the dots.
The fallout is going to be big. I mean, it's going to be more than just. I mean, people be talking about this for a while. Like it's going to be big. I mean, before I got on today, they're talking about the Ukraine, so it's going to be big and we should still definitely dive in. Because it's real.
Yeah, we got 4 days between now and then, and you know what? The way that stuff happens every 4 days, some days, you know,
man, brother, like I'm sober. I haven't drank alcohol in 6 years. But it makes you want to kick one back, brother. It makes you want to just, you know what? Because you don't know what's coming down the pike.
Well, anyways, so everyone, thank you again. If you're still with us, thanks for listening. Subscribe, share with your friends, and